Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everybody. I'm very sorry. I was late to my own Facebook Live. So we're in a new location here in Nashville, and we've never done any filming in this location before, so it was a little bit tricky getting set up. We had some technical issues, but here I am. Thank you for coming. Facebook Live, Ask Me Anything, so we're going to go ahead and do all the basic stuff. I'm going to share this to my timeline. You can do the same thing. You can click the share button and send it directly to your timeline, which would be awesome. I'd appreciate it. Click the like button, the love button, all that fun, fancy stuff. I'm going to share this to my page right now. There we go. Welcome back. This is the Facebook Live Ask Me Anything with me, Justin Nault. And this is number 3. This is episode number 3. So these have been gaining traction, which is really cool. You guys are asking me awesome questions throughout the week and sending me awesome live questions during the feed, which is even more fun. I like the live Q&A the best. So again, my name is Justin Nault. I'm the founder of the Clovis Culture, and I invented all the formulas for the perfect paleo powder. This is one of them. I'm wearing my blue fat loss formula perfect paleo powder shirt because we're going to talk about fat loss today, which seems to be a very popular subject for, well, everyone ever. So we're going to talk about that. Basically what we'll do is we'll do 2 or 3 main topics that I set up for the week based on the questions that I get from followers on social media. And then from there, I'll dive into some kind of rapid fire Q&A stuff. So I'll take questions right here. I have some other questions that I've received that don't really require long, lengthy answers. That's the thing. I try to take questions from people throughout the week that require some expansion, like just a bit more of an explanation than people are used to. Like we did a big crash course on dairy, we did one on pre-workouts last week. This week we're going to start with fat loss. So let's jump right into fat loss. The question I got is, what is the perfect macronutrient ratio for fat loss? To be clear, there is no perfect macronutrient ratio for fat loss. There is a foundational macronutrient ratio that I tend to start with, and that is 60-30-10. That's 60% fat, 30% protein, and 10% carbohydrates. Basic lesson on this: if you don't know what macronutrients are, they're your main essential macronutrients, and that is fat, protein, and carbohydrates. 2 of those are actually essential. They're required for human survival. That's fat and protein. Carbohydrates are not actually required for human survival. What a macronutrient ratio is you're taking the ratio of macronutrients that make up your total caloric intake. So if I say 60% fat, that means 60% of your daily calories are coming from fat. 30% of your daily calories are coming from protein. 10% carbohydrates are making up 10% of your total daily caloric intake. So if we do simple math on this, let's say you were eating 1,000 calories, which is ridiculously low. No one should ever do that. But if you're eating 1,000 calories, 10% of your daily diet being carbohydrates means you're taking in 100 calories of carbohydrates. The way you figure this out with nutrition facts is calories per gram. So 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories. 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. This is why for the past 50 years people have told you that fat makes you fat, because weight gain, weight loss has been based on the archaic idea of calories in, calories out. Burn more calories than you eat, you lose weight. Not true. Not all calories are created equal. You have to eat the correct calories. 100 calories from Pop-Tarts, not the same as 100 calories from grass-fed beef. Totally different. I had someone tell me that on Facebook once, so I like quoting it. They literally told me that Pop-Tarts is no different than beef. It's good it was on Facebook. I might have rear naked choked that dude. But anyway, 60-30-10 is my ideal ratio. So we're not going to get into crazy math. It's just I'm terrible at math. You don't want me to get into math, but I can do enough to get you through macronutrient ratios. I'm going to tell a story real quick about ideal macronutrient ratio. So with me, when people come to me for fat loss, I give them a very simple protocol. This is a list of foods you can eat. If the foods that you're about to eat is not on this list, you don't eat it. You can only eat from a very small list of foods that I give you. Well, I think it's a big list of foods. Some people say it's small, but I think it's big. So only eat these foods, and if your goal is fat loss, stay under 50 grams net carbohydrates. I want to touch on this because I had somebody comment on Facebook that thought I had said that 50 grams to 100 grams is ideal for fat loss. Not necessarily. I did say that if you're under 100 grams of net carbohydrates, you can still lose fat. It might not be rapid fat loss. So most people come to me looking for rapid fat loss. They want fast results, right? So that's what I try to do. And that 50 gram net carbohydrate is kind of the sweet spot for that. So I'll say only eat this list of approved foods, stay under 50 grams of carbs. For that reason, people track their carbs and nothing else, which can work. It works for a lot of people, but sometimes it doesn't. So my friend, she's watching. I won't say anything, but it's not a big deal. So a friend of mine just had a baby not too long ago and wants to lose baby pounds, right? Obviously, of course. But now keep in mind, having just had a baby, you're not doing intense workouts. There's no reason for it. You shouldn't be doing intense workouts. You're healing up, you're letting your body get back to homeostasis. You want to get back to normal after this traumatic event that has happened. So she was staying under 50 grams of carbohydrates and then asking me, hey, I'm not losing fat. I've been doing this for a while now and I'm just not losing fat. Where am I going wrong? I said, okay, for the sake of experimentation, let's have you track everything. So she came back and I believe she was under 50 grams of net carbs, yes, but her macronutrient ratio was like 60 or 70% protein, which is just way too high. It's way too high for a sedentary person. And she has to be because she just had a baby. So she's not out doing CrossFit. If you're a CrossFitter, maybe you can creep your protein up 30%, 40%, 50%, something like that. But if you're sedentary and you're just taking in way too much protein, like 60, 70%, your body's gonna convert that into glucose and you're not gonna burn fat. So this is why it's really important to track in the beginning. But the foundational macronutrient ratio for fat loss, 60% of your daily calories come from fat, 30% of your daily calories come from protein, 10% of your daily calories come from carbohydrates. And that gets tweaked quite often. Like really strict keto people will go as high as 80, 90% calories from fat. They'll cut their protein down to 15%, 10%, take carbohydrates to 5%, 3%, 2%. They go really, really low. Some people just thrive on keto. I don't thrive on strict keto. I'm somewhere around 40, 50 grams of net carbohydrates a day. Sometimes 30, it just depends on the day really, but I don't try to just stay in ketosis. So ideal 60, 30, 10. The other part of this macronutrients for fat loss question is snacks. I always start this conversation with the same sentence. Stop with the snacks. I'm not going to tell you what I consider to be snacks because I think snacks should not exist. Food exists. There's food that exists, but when you come to me like, hey, this Cliff Bar is a healthy snack. No, the only reason you need a snack is because your blood sugar is spiking and dropping. Your insulin is spiking and dropping because you're carbohydrate dependent. If we get you to a point where you're fat adapted with a diet of 60, 30, 10, it might take 4 weeks, it might take 6 weeks, it might take 8 weeks for some people if you were eating 600 grams of carbs a day. Once we get you fat adapted, you don't need to snack anymore. So now that I've taught you about macronutrient ratios, if you look at a plate, if your macronutrient ratio, your fat, carbohydrates, protein, if your macronutrient ratio in that meal is correct, you should not be hungry. 3 to 4 hours later, even 5 hours later, you shouldn't be hungry. I'm almost never hungry. I eat when it's time to eat because I train heavy. So I train heavy, I have to eat. So sometimes I have to kind of force myself to eat because you just don't get hungry. When you get fat adapted, you don't get that same, what they call hangry, I need to eat right now or I'm gonna kill somebody, you know, that crazy feeling. That's the only reason snacking exists. It's once Americans became carbohydrate dependent, they needed to snack. And that's when you get a diabetic that's like, oh, I'm gonna pass out, and they sit down and someone feeds them a glass of orange juice or a Snickers bar. Why on earth would you do that? Why? It's insanity. It's insanity. You need to take care of the carbohydrate dependency first. So that's my disclaimer about snacking. You really shouldn't be snacking. You shouldn't be hungry enough to snack. When you're like, oh, I got to work at 9 a.m., now it's 10:30, and I'm about to die. I need to eat a Snickers bar, or there's only this bagel that I need that's 100% carbohydrates. Don't do that to yourself. The spikes and crashes are gonna just make your day horrible. You shouldn't need a nap at 3 p.m. You shouldn't be that tired. You're only that tired because you have a carbohydrate dependency, right? So let's stop at snacks. That said, let me give you some snack options, right? If you're at work or something where you can take something with you, an avocado is a great plan. Certain types of nuts, my favorites being macadamia nuts, pecans, walnuts, all good options. Don't do peanuts, don't do raw almonds. Pecans, macadamia nuts, Avocado's a good one. Epic Bar makes some really, really great bars. Epic Bars have some solid stuff. Beef jerky, like Oberta beef jerky. It's not grass-fed or whatever. There's some options that just aren't going to be, they're not ideal. Snacking is never ideal. You shouldn't really need to snack, like I said. But beef jerky, avocados, nuts, healthy fats, cans of sardines. People think that's crazy, but I love canned sardines. They're awesome. I'll send you a link to a great brand. So snacks, your snacks are real food. They're real food. This is a problem that we have with food. There's snack food, there's grown-up food, there's little kid food. It's nuts. It's just all, it's food. There shouldn't be a children's menu. There shouldn't be an adult menu. It's food. Just eat food and you're gonna be fine. Eat food. Keep in mind, grains are not food. They're not food. Not designed for human beings. So don't eat a Cliff Bar, don't eat a Kind Bar, don't eat an oatmeal bar, don't eat any of that junk. Eat food, real food, right? So that's my take on snacking. Macronutrients for fat loss, 60, 30, 10. This brings us into supplements. So some people think of supplements as snacks, right? Meal replacement or a quick protein shake on the go or a protein bar or something like that. Like I said, Cliff Bar, stuff like that. It is like 40 grams of carbohydrates with 25 grams of sugar. It's straight up poison. Don't eat that stuff. Stop snacking, right? What supplement should you take? This is a tricky question because I get into a situation where I gotta tell you I'm not a doctor. As the powerful Tim Ferriss loves to say, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. I'm not giving you medical advice. That said, what supplement should you take? Blanket statement, there are some supplements that all human beings could benefit from. They will benefit from. I'm not supposed to tell you that, but they will benefit from certain supplements, okay? Gotta be careful here, right? First and foremost, let's start with multivitamins because multivitamins are the most popular supplement by far, and they're the biggest problem by far. Multivitamins are the #1 issue with the sewage system, at least in the United States. Literally, people are excreting so many undigested multivitamins that they are clogging the sewage systems. It's a huge problem. Billions and billions and billions of pills are in the sewer that people paid money for, put in their mouth, swallowed, pooped out, and wasted in the sewer system. Wasted money down the drain. You don't walk into Walmart and say, I want this $3 multivitamin. Why would you do that? Why? It's insane. That's like drinking a $5 bottle of wine. Don't do that either. It's chemicals. It's straight up chemicals. There's almost no grapes in it, right? So that's the thing, is you gotta be careful with quality of supplements. Only take supplements that were recommended to you from somebody that you really trust and you've done some research on. So if you really trust me, let's dive into some recommendations. There is one multivitamin that I take on a daily basis, covers all my bases, and it is called Healthy Cell Pro. Healthy Cell Pro, amazing supplement. It was recommended to me by my functional medicine doctor, who's a brilliant man, one of the smartest dudes I've ever met in the nutrition world. So Healthy Cell Pro, I gotta warn you though, I pay $60 a month as a member of his functional medicine practice. The retail on Healthy Cell Pro is $89.99. Pricey product, right? You take it every day, 2 pills in the morning, 2 pills at night. It has everything you can think of, all your micronutrients. It has antioxidants, it has probiotics, it has prebiotics. So again, micronutrients, we talked about macronutrients. Those are measured in grams. Fat, protein, carbohydrates, 10 grams of carbs, 10 grams of protein, whatever. All your micronutrients, all your vitamins and minerals, those are measured in units like micrograms, milligrams, IU. They're just small. Micronutrients, small nutrients. Macronutrients, large nutrients that are required in large doses for human survival. So Healthy Cell Pro, knock out all your micronutrients right there. Fantastic, absolutely amazing product. The other thing that I'll recommend that I wanted to talk about is I think everyone, especially in today's society, will benefit from vitamin D. Now, I always suggest that you mix vitamin D and K2, and luckily, one of my most trusted brands, which is Thorne Research, Thorne Research, they make a liquid vitamin D and K2 blend that's amazing. And it's about 1,000 IU for 2 drops, I think. It's relatively inexpensive, and you get like 600 servings in one bottle. It's really crazy. Fantastic. Think about your life, right? We should get vitamin D from the sun. You should be, I mean, literally laying naked in the sun is the single best thing you can do for massive vitamin D uptake in your body. But most people go from house to car to work to car to Netflix, right? That's what people do, let's be honest. So they don't get hardly any vitamin D at all. If you're not getting full-blown sun exposure with no sunblock for 15 minutes a day, you're not getting enough vitamin D. So really, pretty much every human in today's society can benefit from vitamin D. Another one is omega-3s. We are very low on omega-3s. Almost everyone is deficient in them. So I recommend a really good omega-3. I use a company called Nordic Naturals. Nordic Naturals, fantastic. One of the best products I've ever used. They have one called Pro Omega 2000. Again, it's expensive. I think it's like $72 a month or something like that. It's pricey. And I suggest at least 2 to 4 grams a day. So one omega-3 capsule might be 750 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams, whatever. I want you to take 2 to 4 grams. That's 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day. You really want to load up omega-3s. They're healthy fatty acids. They're great for cognitive function. They're great for anti-inflammation. They're great for staving off neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia. They're fantastic products. Omega-3s are super, super important. Now, let's get into particular supplements. So I had somebody ask me about supplements for burning fat. So a quick crash course on this. If you have excess glucose in your system, you can't burn fat. Glucose is faster for the body to burn, so it will choose it over fat. It's easier to burn carbohydrates, but it's a dirty burning fuel. It's like using like normal unleaded gas versus super unleaded, right? It's a cheaper fuel source, and the reaction that it causes is releasing chemicals in your body that are more harmful than when you're burning fat for fuel. Fat is a cleaner burning fuel. But as long as you have glucose, aka carbohydrates, all carbohydrates become glucose at some point, as long as you have excess glucose in your system, you can't burn fat for fuel. So there is no supplement that's going to burn fat for you. It's literally impossible if your diet is not correct. So you have to get the nutrition right. That said, there's something called the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle is the bird's eye, 30,000 view of how your body creates energy. The ultimate goal is to take foodstuffs, and turn them into energy, right? So the Krebs cycle is a description of how the body burns carbohydrates, how the body burns fat, how the body burns anything that it can burn to turn into fuel. And it walks you through that system. So fat first has to be converted into acetyl-CoA. So fat in the Krebs cycle turns into acetyl-CoA. From there, it's converted into ketones, enters the citric acid cycle, and is burned as fuel. All right. So there's a couple steps involved in burning fat. Now, that number one process of burning fat, of turning fat into acetyl-CoA, requires two things: L-carnitine and magnesium. So if you are deficient in carnitine or magnesium, you're going to have a really hard time burning fat. So let's say you get the nutrition correct. You're doing a 60-30-10 macronutrient ratio, like we talked about. You're staying under 50 grams of net carbs. You did everything Justin told you to do, and you're burning fat. You're like, man, I dropped 8 pounds, I dropped 10 pounds, I dropped 16 pounds, right? And you have just that last little bit. Maybe you got 5 pounds left or something, and you're like, I just want to see my abs. I want to see my abs. Go ahead, take a capsule or two of L-carnitine and magnesium with every meal. It will help you burn fat. If you have the nutrition right, it will help you burn fat more efficiently. So L-carnitine, magnesium, those are great ones. The other thing I will recommend is this really awesome product called the Perfect Paleo Powder. There's 4 of them, and there's 4 of them for a reason. If you go looking through the back panel, you'll see that it's essentially a multivitamin, a probiotic, an antioxidant, all in one formula mixed with beef collagen protein. It's almost everything you need for an entire day. Picture a green superfood combined with a protein powder blend. It's the reason why I made them. I got tired of searching for high quality supplements, so I just friggin' made one. And then I made 4. Now there's 4 of them. So check out the Perfect Paleo Powder. I'll put links to it in the show notes and everything, and you guys can take a look and see what works best for you. I wore this because this is the fat loss formula, blue. All of our products are color coded. And yeah, so supplements for burning fat, choose the fat loss formula. Fat loss formula was designed to replace breakfast. Digest and Rest was also designed to replace breakfast, but the ingredients are somewhat different because they're achieving different things. Digest and Rest is to help you heal your gut. Fat loss is to help you burn fat. So I have you replace breakfast with them. Why? People ask me why I did that. Because when people wake up in the morning, the first thing they do is eat a healthy breakfast. Now, a healthy breakfast, according to American Standards Food Pyramid, is bagels, whole wheat toast, oatmeal with fruit in it, yogurt with fruit in it, aka sugar. We wake up, load our systems with sugar. Now, when you're sleeping, you're fasted. You're fasting while you sleep. You're not eating, you're not drinking, you're asleep, right? So you wake up after 8 hours, you got a good little fast going. You probably have some ketone bodies forming in your blood. You're probably in fat burning mode. The second you introduce carbohydrates to your system, you stop fat burning mode, especially simple, high glycemic carbohydrates like sugar, like fruit. I've been doing these AMAs for 3 weeks now, and the amount of hate I get for telling you to stop eating fruit, I don't care. You are all wrong. If you think fruit is a health food, you're wrong. You're wrong. Call my cell phone. Come to Nashville. We'll talk about it. I will prove to you exactly why fruit is not a health food, should never have been pegged as a health food, and you should stop eating it, right? Especially in the morning. You're going to knock yourself right out of fat burning mode. So you can't burn fat for the rest of the day. You just load your body with excess glucose. Now, the Perfect Paleo Powder, the carbohydrates in the Perfect Paleo Powder are what's called complex carbohydrates. It's also loaded with dietary fiber, prebiotic dietary fiber, which feeds your healthy gut bacteria. So the fat loss formula and the digest rest formula, if you replace breakfast with that, I like to blend it with black coffee. It's delicious with black coffee, right? So if you have just black coffee, blend your paleo powder, or just drink it with water, that replaces your breakfast, not gonna kick you out of fat burning mode. It's 120 calories. You're essentially still in a fasted state. You're in what's called a semi-fasted state, where you're getting 80 to 90% of the benefits of a full fasted state, but you don't feel starving. You're not dealing with headaches and stuff like that from being starving. So that's why I designed fat loss, to help you lose fat by keeping you in fat burning mode as long as possible. So replace breakfast with the fat loss formula of the Perfect Paleo Powder, and then just eat when you're hungry again. And like I said, the macronutrients are correct in these meals and these formulas that I designed, so you're not hungry for hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, some people 4 hours. Then you just eat lunchtime and make healthy choices at lunch. Now it's essentially like you fasted 16 hours instead of 8 hours, right? So when it comes to supplements, Perfect Paleo Powder, think about a multivitamin. Pure Encapsulations has another multivitamin I'll put a link to, because I think it's a little cheaper than Healthy Cell Pro. Thorne, vitamin D and K2, Nordic Naturals omega-3. If you want to do a little boost of fat burning, you got a couple pounds left to go, and you have your nutrition right. Remember, your nutrition has to be right. Think about L-carnitine and magnesium. Quick tip about magnesium, there's a lot of different kinds. Glycinate, citrate, there's a bunch of different magnesiums. Get magnesium glycinate. Why? Because magnesium citrate will make you shit in your pants, and you don't want to do that. So get magnesium glycinate. I'll put links to all this stuff in the show notes, so don't worry about it. The other thing in supplements that I'm going to touch on really quick, I get a lot of questions about Shakeology. Like a lot of questions about Shakeology. So I just explained to you kind of how my powder works. I'm gonna give you a quick breakdown of why I can't recommend Shakeology, even though I love Beachbody programs. I did P90X like 1, 2, 3, 14, whatever they did. I did Insanity 6 times. Beachbody, they have great programs for fitness, but they need to stay in their lane. They have the nutrition all wrong. Their diet plans are ridiculous. Don't follow them. It's like half a bagel and Oscar Mayer deli meat with a slice of cheese. Get out of here with that shit. Ridiculous, right? Come on, Shaun T. Do better, right? So Shakeology, they make these shakes, and the problem with them is they're plant-based proteins, number one. They have whey protein, which is a dairy-based protein, which 66% of adults cannot digest dairy, and it's one of the most common food sensitivities on planet Earth. I had a mom call me looking for help. She was freaking out because her son was underweight, and the doctor put him on a whey protein. Which one? I don't know. He said, go to Walmart and get the cheapest whey protein you can find and start shoving it in your kid's face. So now this kid is just feeling like death all the time, and he's crying to his mom, doesn't want to drink his whey protein. Well, they got him tested, and he has a whey protein allergy. I can't handle this sometimes, right? So, but anyway, that's just one example of one kid who had a sensitivity. A dairy sensitivity is a very, very common thing. 66% of adults can't digest dairy. So try to stay away from whey. And Shakeology does this thing where they blend whey protein, quinoa protein, I think chia seeds, flax seeds, and peas. Pea protein sounds awesome. I'd rather eat cricket protein personally. I don't know. But anyway, it's just not a high quality protein. It's the cheapest protein you can get. Plant-based proteins are incredibly cheap to manufacture. That's why they do it. It's a ridiculously high profit margin. And these things contain lectins and phytates. They are damaging to the lining of your gut. I did a whole thing on lectins. So they have lectin-containing foods that they're breaking down and using for protein. Now, they might argue that the processing experience that it goes through, like the processing that they do to the protein, might reduce lectins or phytates. I don't really know, but I know that they're gut damaging as whole foods. So why would you want them as an extract? Right? If something's going to damage my gut as a whole food, I'm not going to extract it down to a concentrated form and drink it with water. That's silly. The other thing to remember is anytime you look at any nutrition fact ever, I had a girl ask me this week about condiments. Can I do ketchup? Nope, probably not. Why? Read the ingredients. The number 2 ingredient in most ketchup is high fructose corn syrup. Maltodextrin, sucralose, corn syrup, all this stuff. It's not tomatoes. You gotta read the ingredients. You have to get in the habit, not just nutrition facts, the ingredients are underneath the nutrition facts. You have to read those. So when something says nutrition facts and then other ingredients, that's the most important stuff. And according to FDA regulations, if you look at the Perfect Paleo powder, because I'm completely transparent with all of my powders, if you look at the Perfect Paleo powder, it says other ingredients. Number 1, beef collagen protein, right? Beef collagen protein is the number 1 ingredient. You have to list them from most to least. So the number 1 ingredient being beef collagen protein, I think the very last ingredient is monk fruit. So that the least amount of that blend is monk fruit. There's not a lot in there, a very small amount, right? So you have to list from most ingredients to least amount in your other ingredients list. That's the most important part of any food label that you read. The issue with Shakeology is they did something called 5 proprietary blends. As someone who manufactures products, I'm gonna tell you what proprietary blend means. Proprietary blend means, legally, I wanna protect my formula. This is what they're saying that they think the public wants to hear. Behind the scenes, they're saying, legally, I'm gonna list 40 ingredients in my proprietary blend, and as long as it's a proprietary blend and it's my intellectual property, I don't have to tell you how much of each ingredient is in there. So I could list 40 ingredients like Shakeology does. Their proprietary blend is 32 grams of about 40 different ingredients, right? And you have no idea how much each one is in there. Literally. They could be like chicory root, 31 grams, and then 1 gram split between all these other 40 ingredients. You have no way of knowing that because it's a proprietary blend. They're protecting their intellectual property by ripping you off. They're loading it with the highest number of cheap high profit margin ingredients they can put in there, and they do proprietary blends so they can mix up all the ingredients and not list it the way that I did, like an ethical, moral business owner. This stuff drives me nuts, right? So proprietary blend, anytime you see it in the supplement, run. They're not being transparent. There's a reason they're not being transparent. You should be proud of your formula. I'm proud of my formula. Look at my other ingredients, look at the nutrition facts, look at everything you can find. It's the best product on the market, period, all right? Supplements, Shakeology, we talked about macros. So we're about 40 minutes in, except I was late. So we'll probably go a little bit over this time. But the other thing I want to talk about is protein and meat quality standards, right? So I actually had a question from a farmer. She's a friend of mine and she has a farm and she raises chickens and some other animals. And she said, can you please explain to people the difference between organic, free range, pasture raised, farmed fish, wild caught fish, all these things. So let's do a quick crash course, all right? Let's start with cattle. Organic, pretty good. Grass-fed, awesome. Grain-fed, it's not gonna kill you, right? It's not evil, it's not poison, but you don't wanna be loading up on it. So the real question comes, so grain-fed, that's your last choice. If you're at a restaurant or something, 99.9% of the time it's gonna be grain-fed, just kind of deal with it, you know? But, so grain-fed's down here, and then next in line in terms of quality, you have organic, and cream of the crop is 100% grass-fed. So let me dive into that a little bit. Organic meat doesn't tell you anything about the diet of the animal. The only thing that they're telling you is the cattle was raised on land that is organic. So the grass on this organic farm or whatever was not treated with certain pesticides. The animals cannot be treated with antibiotics unless they're sick. That's kind of tricky because who's sitting there regulating whether or not this animal is sick, right? So organic is really just telling you the land that they're raised on is farmed in an organic manner. It's not using pesticides. They shouldn't be using hormones. I'm sure there are ethical farmers and I'm sure there are unethical farmers. There's a lot of ways around that. But they shouldn't be using hormones or antibiotics. Antibiotics are only used if they're sick. But again, who's really regulating this stuff? Now, the other thing you have to remember is there is a requirement for what they call grazing in their diet. So 30%, to be labeled organic meat, 30% of the animal's diet has to come from grazing. But that means only 30% of their total diet is coming from grazing. The other 70% can be whatever the farmer decides. It can be grain-fed, so if it's organic and not grass-fed, they're feeding it grains. 100% they're feeding it grains. Now, what happens when you feed an animal grains? It gets sick. What happens when the animal gets sick? You can still inject it with antibiotics, even according to organic regulations. So this does get tricky. If 70% of their diet is grains, the animal's gonna get sick. So at some point, they're probably gonna get stuck with antibiotics. I don't think they can use hormones at all under any circumstances. I may have said that wrong in the beginning, but antibiotics they can use if the animal's sick. So if 70% of their diet's grains, odds of them getting sick, pretty freaking good. I don't wanna take those odds. Now, also, the fact that they have to have 30% of their diet coming from grazing, like outside eating grass, does not apply to the last 120 days of their life, okay? So you have 120 days of the end of this animal's life where you can just fatten it up with grains and do whatever you want. You can shove grains in its face, you can watch it get sick, you can inject it with antibiotics, feed it more grains, watch it get sick again, inject it with antibiotics. The last 120 days, Wild West. These farmers can do whatever they want. Now, that said, organic, again, is better than grain-fed. Grain-fed is usually coming from feedlot, and if you want to just Google feedlot images or feedlot videos or factory farm videos, holy crap, you're gonna go nuts. You're gonna go nuts, all right? So you probably don't want to go with grain-fed. Organic, there's some issues there. The only thing that you can really trust is 100% grass-fed. Oh, another issue about organic, there are meats that you will find in your grocery store. If you're a food label detective like I am, you will find organic meats that are labeled USDA organic, US, United States, USDA organic, that were not produced in the United States. What? I can't understand it, right? It's crazy. So you gotta be careful with the organic label. Now, 100% grass-fed is what you're always looking for in beef. 100% grass-fed means grass-fed and grass-finished, because there are grass-fed cows that are grain-finished, and that goes into that last 120 days of life. They can feed the animal grain, the animal can get sick, they fix it, blah, blah, blah. So grass-fed, grass-fittest, anything that's 100% grass-fed, that's what you want to go with in a perfect world. Now, free-range versus pasture-raised. Remember that free-range, you never want to buy. Cage-free, you never want to buy, because it's a loophole. You could have basically what's a feedlot farm, chickens stacked on top of each other all over the place in this tiny little shed. And that shed can have a tiny little door. And if you open that door for 5 minutes a day, you can be labeled free range. That's insane to think about. These are loopholes. They're like tax loopholes. There's all these different there's loopholes in everything, right? If you're not an unethical person, you can find loopholes in anything. And that's what some of these farmers do. So you always want pasture raised. Pasture raised means that the animal has access to pasture to eat bugs and eat worms and eat grass and whatever else it wants to eat 100% of the year. It always has access to pasture. The other thing about these free range ones is even if they open that door and the animal walks outside, a lot of them are on cement and dirt. There is no pasture. So they might walk outside and get some sunlight, but you can't call the animal pasture raised. So don't get free range, don't get cage free, only get pasture raised poultry. Now, to help you guys with this, there's a website called Eat Wild, EATWILD.com. I'll put this in the show notes. You can look at eatwild.com and you can look up where to find these things in your area so you can make sure that you're making good choices. The other question I had was about wild caught versus farmed. Never buy farmed fish, ever. Farmed fish can really be toxic. It's pretty awful. There are some countries that actually ban farmed fish, like farmed tilapia is banned in tons of countries. Farmed salmon is banned in a lot of other countries. You will see on the back there's nutrition facts, there's other ingredients. It has to say wild caught. If it's wild caught, it has to say it on the label. So you gotta search sometimes, it's pretty small. I don't know why they don't put it in huge letters. Some companies put it in huge letters, but sometimes you gotta hunt and make sure this stuff's wild caught. So always get wild caught. Wild caught versus farmed is pretty tough because it's like the animals, like the cattle that we talked about. You're feeding them something that's not their natural diet, so these fish get really sick. The problem with the fish is they get sick and they excrete into the water that they're swimming in, and they get the other animals sick. And now you're talking about diseases, and they have inflammation all throughout their body, and they have these inflammatory chemicals in their meat that you're eating that cause an inflammatory reaction in your body. It's nuts. Like a wild-caught fish also has like 10 times the omega-3 value, which is a really, like I told you should supplement with omega-3s. They're fantastic, or get them from wild-caught fish, right? It's like 10 times the amount of factory farm. And the factory farm fish have a ton of omega-6s, which are inflammatory. So they're gonna cause, factory farm fish has literally been linked to heart disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Literally. They've done clinical studies where they take farm fish and they can link it to those 3 issues. It's that inflammatory. It damages the body in a way you can't even wrap your head around. Okay, so that was the other one we talked about, grass-fed versus grain-fed versus organic. That also leads me to restaurants. People ask me about how to eat in a restaurant, right? If you go to a restaurant and they have wild caught anything or grass fed anything, it's gonna be on the menu and it's gonna be more expensive. They're gonna brag about it. So if you find it on the menu, just go with that. Grab that and a side of steamed veggies. So I always ask that up front. I ask the waiter if they have anything wild caught, anything grass fed. That's what I'll order in a restaurant. If not, I'm gonna order a burger, medium rare. I'm gonna ask for a fried egg on top of it. I'm gonna ask for avocado on top of it. I'm gonna ask for bacon on top of it. And I'm gonna ask for no bun. And then I'm gonna ask for like a side of steamed broccoli, right? Steamed veggies, burger, add some extras to it, like fried egg, avocado, bacon. There you go. Is it the best option in the world? No, but you're not eating at home. You still have to be a human sometimes and go to restaurants, but you can make good decisions in restaurants. It's absolutely possible. So go ahead and do that. So let's see, we got about 12 minutes left. Like I said, we can go a little bit. I'm gonna hit a couple quick questions that I have real quick. Apps for tracking. If you're tracking your macronutrients, the 60% fat, 30% protein, 10% carbohydrates, MyFitnessPal. It's by far and away the most popular tracker out there. They're pretty good. I think you can set targets for your macronutrient ratios, which is helpful. And I'm biased towards MyFitnessPal because they carry the most nutrient-dense line of nutritional powders in the world. That's right. MyFitnessPal contains all formulas of the perfect paleo powder. So I love them. Thank you, MyFitnessPal. You're awesome. You can download MyFitnessPal. You can track carbohydrates, fat, protein. I think they do dietary fiber too, which helps you calculate net carbs. There's another one called Carb Manager. I haven't used Carb Manager myself, but it's centered completely around carbohydrate tracking, which is awesome. So check out Carb Manager. Just a lot of people have been telling me about it over the years that it's a great app. So Carb Manager, check that one out. For tracking workouts, and I had a question about beginner workouts, 5x5. Strong Lifts 5x5 is the single best workout I've found for beginners ever. And the app tracks everything. iPhone app, Android app. Strong Lifts 5x5. I'll send you a link. Old school barbell training. It's good for everyone, including women. My other favorite is GMB, Gold Medal Bodies. This is a type of gymnastics training, body weight training and gymnastic movements for mobility. Insane. It's fantastic. And I went into it as a power lifter. Like, what's this sissy body weight stuff? Totally kicked my ass. So it's amazing. So we talked about traveling meals. The other thing I get asked about a lot is motivation. So this is going to get into a little bit of mindset. I've studied a lot of mindset. I've gone deep on this stuff, consciousness, mindset, all that in the last few years. Hyperspeed learning. I've just tried a ton of stuff that has to do with cognitive enhancement, and mindset is the biggest part of that. So when you ask me a question like, how do I get motivated? How do I stay motivated? How does Justin stay motivated to do the things that he does? Or how do I get motivated the way that you're motivated? That's the question that I get a lot because I do a lot of things. So how do you stay so motivated? I don't rely on motivation, ever. Don't rely on motivation. Motivation will fail you every time. So you have to fix your brain, right? There's motivation and there's discipline. You don't need motivation. You need discipline. And this is a hard pill to swallow sometimes because a lot of people really don't have discipline. If you hit your snooze button 3-4 times a day, you don't have discipline. You need to work on that. You need to hold yourself accountable and work on that. Discipline is a decision that you make, right? Ditch motivation and decide what person do you want to be and set reasonable goals. So if it's January 1st and you decide you want to work out, don't say I'm going to work out 2 hours a day, 6 days a week when you haven't worked out for the last year. You're going to get so sore, you can't move, and you're going to quit. Day 3, you're done, right? So just say, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do body weight squats for 10 minutes and I'm going to take breaks in between as I need them, and I'm going to do that 3 times a week. That's 30 minutes total in 3 different sessions, right? Start there. That's discipline that you can stick to. You can make the decision. I am a person who's going to go to the gym 3 days a week, right? You make that decision and you do it. Who's going to hold you accountable? Nobody. Nobody except for you. You have to make that decision. I talked about this in an earlier Ask Me Anything. I take an ice cold shower. I wake up every day and I take an ice cold shower, and it sucks every time. You never get used to it. Never, but I know the health benefits and I know the person I want to be, and I make that decision and I do it. Period. There is no debate about this. I fly out tomorrow to play a gig at Duke University. I'm going to be in a hotel. I'm going to do a cold shower in the hotel. I'm going to be in West Point, Iowa on Saturday. I'm going to take a cold shower in the hotel both mornings that I'm there. This is a decision that I make, and it's non-negotiable. You have to make Nutrition and fitness, non-negotiable for you. And like I said, when you're at a party with family members, whatever, and they're making fun of you for the way you eat, no, you don't need motivation. You don't need willpower. You have discipline. You made the decision, right? So a couple books I want to recommend if you really want to get into this mindset thing. One is called Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's a fantastic book. It focuses a lot on kids and you'll learn that we were really brainwashed as kids. The public school system does a terrible job of training mindset. Oh, you're good at math, you're bad at English, the gymnasium exercise is your strong point, but your science and social studies are your weak points. Weak, strong, weak, strong. You can get good at anything in the world that you want to. That's an insane way to raise children, right? So read the book Mindset. It'll talk a lot about that. And then when we talk about discipline, a lot of the discipline things that I've learned come from a guy called Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink is an ex-Navy SEAL. Dude writes amazing books, and he just released a really easy read. He calls it a field manual called Discipline Equals Freedom. Again, I'm going to put links to all these in the show notes. So Discipline Equals Freedom is a fantastic one. Then he has a beautiful book called Way of the Warrior Kid, right? And this is about a kid who gets bullied at school. He can't do a pull-up. He thinks he's stupid because he doesn't know his multiplication tables and no one's ever taught him correctly and blah, 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 blah. And his Uncle Jake, who's a Navy SEAL, comes and stays with him for the summer, teaches him all these amazing things. If you read this book, Way of the Warrior Kid, and you don't just get crazy motivated, if you're looking for motivation, that's going to give it to you. It's going to talk to you a lot about discipline, but it is going to get you hyped. You're reading this book about this adorable kid who just changes his whole life by changing his mindset, right? It's a children's book that every grown-up in the world should read. I'm telling you, you should read this book. It's fantastic. So Mindset, Discipline Equals Freedom, Way of the Warrior Kid. Where does my personal motivation come from? It doesn't come from motivation. It comes from discipline. It is simply a choice that I make every day. Day in, day out, no days off. It is a decision, right? Okay, so we touched on a lot. That was a heavy AMA. You guys are frying my brain out there. So those of you in the room, we can hit on some quick Q&As if you want to. If there's any questions you have about what I talked about, something about organic meat or something about my products, the Perfect Paleo Powder, any of the supplements that I named, or also the beginning, which was the 60-30-10 that we talked about. Just go ahead and leave me comments. You can do that right now. I'll read them as they come in while we're wrapping up here. Also, all the things that I love, click the like button, click the love button, click the happy face, click the surprise face, whatever you want to do. Share this to your timeline. You can share it as a post to your timeline after this. Tag your friends and family if you think they're going to get something out of it. If someone's taken a terrible multivitamin, some one-a-day silly thing that you think is bad, say, hey man, you should probably check out this Ask Me Anything that Justin did, and share it to their page or tag them in it, and just make sure that we get this information out there. That's what we're trying to do, is spread as much positive information as we can. We got some cool things coming up with the AMAs going forward. We're going to make them a little easier to share for all you guys, and it's going to be really cool. I think we're going to do some real good and spread a lot of awesome information. So thank you guys very much for watching. This is Ask Me Anything number 3. We touched on a whole lot of stuff. Leave me comments. Let me know if you have questions. Okay, we got one coming in right now. If you're on a strict budget, what few adjustments or investments would you make to get the most bang for your buck? Food quality, supplements, cookware. Ooh, okay. The single best thing that you could do is restrict your grocery list, right? That's the quickest way to save money. Is people want, like I said, I have an approved foods list and I'll send this to you, but people think that they need this long list of groceries, right? No, it's the last thing you want. If you can walk in, I can get in and out of the grocery store in 5 minutes. If you just get a few staples and eat the same foods over and over and over, which is incredibly healthy if you're getting high quality stuff, then that's gonna save you a ton of money. Don't stroll through the aisles and look for this, or Junior wants this, or husband wants this, or whatever, and start grabbing snacks and stuff. That's really where the expense comes from. It's not that expensive to eat healthy. Like I said, if you're on a budget, try to get at least organic meat or grass-fed beef if you can. Grass-fed beef is super expensive. The eatwild.com website will help you, because it'll actually help you to find a local farm and get some of these things locally. And in New York, you can totally do that. So I would check that out. Supplements, probably Pure Encapsulations, their multivitamin. I would just get everyone in your family on that multivitamin. That's a solid product. So go with the multivitamin. In terms of cookware, I use one thing for cooking, for sauteing, and that is a cast iron skillet. I think it's called Iron Lodge or something like that. But just a big 12-inch or 16-inch cast iron skillet, and then just a pot for steaming veggies. That's literally all I have. That's it. You don't need crazy amounts of cookware. A little steam basket might help. They're like $5 on Amazon, right? So I have a steam basket, I have one pot, I have one cast iron skillet. That's it. The only thing I use every day besides that is my French press, right? Okay, so let's look through here. Any additional supplement suggestions for immune systems? Yes, okay, I remember that. So teacher, worried about immune system. The number one thing I will recommend to you is called Host Defense, My Community. Host Defense is a series of mushrooms. It is a boatload of extracted mushrooms, and I use it every day. It's 2 capsules a day. You can get it on Amazon. I'll send you a link. So Host Defense, My Community, that's the best one I found for immune support. I heard about this, people raving about it on a podcast. I started taking it. It's fantastic. Twice a day. It's super affordable. I think it's like $30 a month or something like that. It will help you big time being a school teacher. Absolutely. Immune support is super important. So you might want to think about a multivitamin too. Like I said, Healthy Cell Pro is the peak multivitamin you can get, but it's $90 a month, right? So maybe try the Pure Encapsulations multivitamin, but specifically for immune support, you want to grab Host Defense, My Community. I've never seen a product like this. It's fantastic. So that's what you want to go with. So I'll hang here for a minute, see if we have any other additional questions that pop in. Don't leave me hanging, guys. Somebody's got to ask me something, right? Yeah, I know, we touched on a lot. So, all right, so we'll probably wrap it up for today. I hope that this was informative. If it was, like I said, share it with your family, tag them, click the like button. Thank you guys so much for doing this and for being a part of this and for allowing me to do this. It means a lot to me. Keep the questions coming all week long. Keep the questions coming. Social media, Facebook, Justin Nault, Instagram, Justin Nault, Facebook, Clovis Culture, Instagram, Clovis Culture, The Perfect Paleo Powder. You can find us everywhere. Just leave us messages wherever you want to. Also, yeah, feel free to reach out via our website. We have a contact form on the website. You can find email addresses and everything. We touched on a lot today. Hope I didn't fry your brain too much. Remember, I'm always here if you want clarification. Thank you so much. This is Ask Me Anything number 3. This is getting crazy. All right, thank you guys so much. Have an amazing night. I love you. Bye.